It's another critical weekend for the Danbury Hat Tricks as they're home for 2 games against HC Venom, their Empire Division foes here at the Danbury Ice Arena. We wish you a Happy New Year as well with Matt Voity, Wyatt Kopelman here, as we're delighted to have you aboard here on episode 10 of Hat Tricks Weekly in the Axe Tricks Lounge. Matt, Happy New Year to you. Thanks for joining us again today.
Thanks for having me here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So the Hat Tricks, they're coming off a loss to the Binghamton Blackbears here at home on Saturday. What were some of the things that you learned about your team that you're improving upon this week?
I think, there's a period of time there, I think early in the second, really most of the second, where I think we needed to finish some chances. And I think we need to be a little better at when we do get a look, we do get a chance, we come away with a goal. And that's going to be a big focus for this weekend.
What's the biggest message in practice this week as you have a good chance to get 2 points, or rather 2 games against HC Venom, a team you've seen very frequently? What's
the message? Come out, work your bag off for 60 minutes, and out-compete them. That's the biggest thing. We ebb and flow sometimes based on what happens to us, and we get discouraged, and I think that's where we need to be better and learn to just roll with the punches of the game a little bit more.
Now, with this loss against Binghamton, it seems like the team, at least this year compared to other years, has had a bit less success on home ice this season. Is there anything in particular you think's contributed to that early on this season?
I think it's kind of what I just talked about, where we're a little easily discouraged. And we need to understand, especially in this league, it's kind of a toe-to-toe, punch-for-punch game. We have to expect that out of any opponent, especially when we play the Motor Cities and even Hudson Valley. I know they're struggling a little bit, but we have to expect them to come out and compete, and they're going to die hard. They're not going to die easy. So
now going into this weekend as well, you have newcomers. You have Jordan Popoff, who just arrived as another defenseman reinforcement. Matt Pedersen and Isaac Embry have also been here for just about 4 games now. What are some of the things that stand out to you as they've sought to make an early impact?
I think, Embry's kind of brought what we wanted to. He's brought good energy. He's fighting, which is good, but he's not letting that become too much of a distraction. But he brings a presence that we definitely needed. I think Pedersen's going to be a really good D. He's young. He's an 03. He's right out of junior. So there's times he makes some good plays. There's times he doesn't make they're not so good. Not so good plays. And I think if, hopefully he can continue to get better. I expect him to get better, and he can be someone that's here for a couple of years. And, Pops will be in tonight. He's going to be in this weekend. I think he's got some experience for a young guy, a little more than maybe people. Even I didn't, I knew of him, but I didn't expect him to have as many games as he did. And I think he's going to help us back there and be a little bit more of a physical presence and be a little tougher in front of our net, which we've definitely needed.
You mentioned how a lot of these guys are young and that they can learn a lot. Some of them are just out of junior hockey. What do you believe they can learn from somebody like Jared Yao or even LaBelle, who have a lot of experience in pro hockey already?
I think one of the big things is just the reads and how to handle the game mentally. Sometimes the mistakes that the young players make are more emotional or mental because they're not, they didn't have that 4 years of college where, you have to manage your mental game and, you have a very kind of rigid schedule. You're kind of coming from junior hockey right into pro, and now all of a sudden you're playing with men. And some of these men have a lot of experience in hockey. I mean, like we have, Vasi on our team who's played in the KED. There's, Don Oliveri's played in the Coast. And there's so much experience there that it's hard to make up. And, I think you need a full year, maybe more, before you really can have those lessons kind of set in. I think, the Bellers and the Gonzos and some of the vets have done a really great job of taking some of those guys under their wing, but it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, and adjusting to this league, particularly with the physicality and the skating, it doesn't even take a week. So on that note, is it the skating that can often be a concern or as a part of the learning curve, or are there other aspects that you believe are on that learning curve to adjust to in this league?
I think it's, skating, I mean, generally at this point, I think the skating's there. Although I do think skating can always be improved, but it's more the reads and really understanding the game and what, if I'm defending and a player's coming down on me, like, what does he have available? What is he looking to do? As opposed to just kind of like, okay, this guy's just going to come down and kind of throw something. And, I just got to stay in the middle and not kind of getting enticed by their feet or kind of by some of the deception that these guys are really good at. And kind of managing, I think the skating part is a good point where you have to manage your feet. You can't run around. You can't let yourself get caught out of position. So it all kind of comes together. I don't think like skating is separate from the mental part of it or the knowledge of the game part of it. It kind of all comes together, and that's where it's like this mental and physical part, it just takes time to mesh.
And how much of that learning can be done on film as opposed to in practice where you can mix up a lot of different combinations with deep pairings?
I think it's a piece of it. I think some of the younger guys, especially at a junior, maybe not have done as much film in the past. And when they see themselves, they're like, oh, wow, okay. It's like, I didn't realize I looked that bad, or, oh, I didn't really realize that that's where that guy was going, or I didn't see that develop that way. So, I mean, it's a big piece of it. It's not everything. It can't take the place of getting on the ice and physically doing the things that you need to do, but it's an important piece.
Going into HC Venom this weekend, it looks like Jesso was suspended for the prior game, the rescheduled against Binghamton New Year's Eve, but albeit he may play still, maybe he won't. And then there's also Montes Noriega, who's also been a threat in the season series. What challenges have you seen HC Venom pose in the few games you've played against them?
Well, I think they're just very offensive. I think defensively we can get to them. I think we just have to make sure we're taking away time and space from those two guys, if they're in the lineup. And I think, I think the one loss we had at home against them, I think we took them too lightly, to be honest with you. And that's something we can't let that happen.
How much of the mentality, at least do you hope they take in, this team that is, on being focused, carrying the weight for 60 minutes?
How much
of the mentality do you think kind of circulates around being focused and just carrying the weight against this Hudson Valley team?
Well, that's our whole mentality. I mean, that's what it needs to get to. And, for some of these guys, it's an adjustment. Some of these guys have been in places where you didn't have to play 60 minutes, or there wasn't that much emphasis on it. And that's back to what we were talking about before. Part of the learning curve with some of these guys is, hey, the way the game is now, you can let up 2 goals, but if you're in the first period, it doesn't mean anything. It's not a safe lead. It's almost like college hockey was, or still is, but when I broke into college hockey 15, 20 years ago, I mean, a 3-0 lead in the first, you're kind of nervous if you're up, you know what I mean? Because the other team's going to punch back. So I think that's really the focus of our mentality, is just to play a complete game. Doesn't mean we're not going to have down moments or mistakes or anything like that, but we're competing and we're working hard and we're executing for 60 minutes.
Conor McCollum, he gets the call for a PTO to Hartford this weekend, 2 days ago. How exciting was it just to see that for someone you've worked with for a good time here in Danbury?
Oh, it's a great reward for them. I mean, I wish it was something I could have done, but it's always good to see that. It's good to see that he's on someone's radar, especially in a very organic way where it's not like, oh, well, I knew somebody's uncle, cousin, whatever. It's like, oh, hey, we're aware of this kid and he's done a good job. Let's bring him in.
What do you anticipate he can do for Hartford in his first couple of weeks there?
He's back, right?
Yeah. He was a PTO, but what do you believe he can learn from that?
Oh, what can he learn from it? Okay. I hope you edit this out. I'm sorry. I think, when you get around other really good athletes, you can learn a lot just from their habits, just from the way they comport themselves. I think he didn't spend a ton of time there, and fortunately for him. But I think sometimes being around that mentality and being around that caliber of athlete, you can pick up a lot of little things about preparation and how to approach different situations.
So going into this weekend, you also have a great chance to get 6 points against HC Venom. We'll continue tradition as always here on Hat Tricks Weekly. The Hat Tricks take 6 points if
we work our bag off for 60 minutes and outcompete them.
outcompete them, work their bag off. Last couple weeks, it was playing like savages. We'll hope the Hat Tricks can get 6 points this weekend. Well, Hat Tricks, they're on the ice, 7:30 for HC Venom. Matt, thanks for your time as always.
Thank you.